We are now broadcasting.
All right. Hello, all, and welcome to the first in our series of Finding the Right workshop for your 2020 writing goals. We're kicking off our series with our 2020 novel offerings. As a fellow novelist, it's hard not to see the need for authentic, excellent middle grade and YA novels when looking at a world where we live right now. Both the natural world and the political world, things going on globally and in our own backyards. I think of our audience, our 12 to 19-year-olds who are stepping into all of this. They're a part of the experience, but they also need people like you to provide art that will help them process what's happening in the world. And that does come with great responsibility as writers. So our readers deserving that excellence and that authenticity, we hope at the Highlights Foundation, we can help you get there. We want to help you create just that, authentic, excellent novels for your readers. And you deserve excellence too. And I hope that our 2020 novel offerings can provide that for you. We have about 25 workshops for novelists this year. Which feels really incredible on many levels. One, because when I first started as the program director in 2011, my total number of workshops that year was 23. So knowing that more than half of those workshops, maybe 14 were novel workshops, to the growth here in 2020 at 25 workshops for novelists. It's pretty fascinating. We have 50 total workshops this year on campus, and we also have 12 workshops online, and a number of those are dedicated to novelists as well. When you look at that number, 50 total workshops, 25 for novelists, it can seem a bit overwhelming. So the idea for the webinar series was to talk a little bit about how do we narrow that focus? How do you select what would be best for you as a novelist in 2020 with your unique goals? I hope you get a little closer to that decision over the next 20 or 30 minutes. And I know no matter which session you pick, online or in person, you can count on the Highlights Foundation to include generous and talented mentors in all of our workshops, a strong sense of community, and a sharp focus on craft. If you were sitting here with me at Highlights today, I might ask you just 3 questions to get started. The first would probably be, where are you on your journey as a novelist or in the specific project that you're working on? So for some friends, they might say, oh, this is my 4th novel, and in working through, I've decided that, I've always been a pantser, and I've decided I want to outline. So in this 4th novel, right now I'm starting with an outline, and I think I know my concept, I think I know my characters, but I just don't know how to outline. That's going to give you a really specific focus. We know that you've written full novels before. This is just a need that you might have in your education. Some other people might say, this is the first time I've ever even attempted a novel, and I've written 10 or 20 pages, and I'm so excited. I've workshopped those pages with a small writing group, and now I need to know what happens next. That tells us a lot about where you are on your journey as a writer, and also where you are in that specific project. If I were interviewing myself, I might say, oh, I am so close to this novel that I keep getting feedback on, and I need someone else maybe to look at the whole thing with me and help me set up some goals and strategies. But today is not about me, so we won't get into my needs for workshops right now. For you, I would say start with this question, think about where you are on your journey, think about where you are in your project, and once you have those questions answered, then start thinking about the specificity. Are you writing in a specific area, or are you looking more generally at crafting a novel? Those general pieces like plot and character and voice and pacing, etc., those will be in each of our novel workshops. But there are workshops at the Highlights Foundation that speak to specific formats, like say you're writing a novel in verse, or writing middle grade versus young adult, or a genre like science fiction. If you're writing something like that, you want a workshop that is specifically tailored toward those interests, and you can find them. I'd also suggest asking yourself, how much feedback are you really ready to receive? Each of our novel workshops does have a component of feedback, some way more than others. And if you've never received any feedback before on any of your work, it might feel overwhelming to jump right into a whole novel critique, where you're looking at just a ton of feedback all at once. Also, sometimes people need more time to process feedback when they receive it. And if you know that about yourself, and you look at the workshop itself and see the amount of feedback, and that there isn't a lot of time to revise or to process critique that you've received, that might be an indication of a type of workshop that might work best for you. Also, at some of our workshops, we have editors and agents who are reviewing your work, which is very different than having your fellow authors reviewing your work. And so are you ready for that type of critique as well? So, you want to think about all of these things, especially at different points on the journey of a project. Would receiving too much feedback on the beginning of your novel at this point halt you from being able to continue? So really looking carefully at the amount of feedback given in a workshop is also something that can be helpful as you're trying to decide. So now you've answered these 3 questions. You've talked about your journey professionally. You've talked about, the project itself. You've looked at any specifics that you're targeting toward, and you've thought about the amount of critique that you want to get back. Now let's hear just a little bit about those 25 offerings, and I'm going to get through them, summarize them as best I can here in the next few minutes, and then we'll take some time for questions. As I said, we're not spending time today on nonfiction or picture books or illustration. Today, we are focusing on you, our novelists. We have several novel workshops that are genre specific and some that are format specific as well. In April, we have a brand new workshop to the Highlights Foundation created by Nova Rensuma and Anna Marie McLemore called Making Magic. This is a novel workshop that is focused on fantastical and otherworldly stories, and it's perfect for intermediate writers who are looking for a good amount of feedback. You're going to receive up to 25 pages of feedback here. You're also going to receive feedback in different ways. You'll have a chance to meet one-to-one with your faculty mentors, and you'll have an opportunity to sit and work in some peer facilitated roundtable critiques as well. This could be for your novel in progress. This might be for breaking into a new genre, a great workshop to try. Suppose you're a little farther along in that otherworldly novel, that fantastical novel, then our whole novel retreat called Writing the Unreal might be for you. This workshop is for those who have finished their fantasy or speculative fiction novel and are ready for a whole novel review of the manuscript. This is an application-based workshop, and we offer it twice in 2020, once in May and once in October. For the May class, applications are due for this workshop by January 31st. So if you're seriously thinking, yes, my novel is finished, I've revised it myself, I need that guide at my side to lead me across the finish line, this would be the time to get that application together. In addition, we have science fiction middle grade novelists. coming to us for Odyssey into Middle Grade Science Fiction. This is a new workshop as well, and it might be just right for those beginning in this genre. And even those who are slightly more advanced, there will be feedback based on your journey. And even if you're coming to it with just the idea phase, there'll be an opportunity for you to flesh out the world building and the character building that are a part of this genre. But suppose fantastical and speculative isn't for you. Perhaps working on contemporary novels feels just right. We do have, returning this year with a slight twist, our contemporary novels, sweet, sophisticated, and their storylines. It's focusing on what makes writing contemporary stories for teens ages 12 to 19 work. We did add a little bit more this year on plotting, because last year we found at the group that we gathered a real need for talking more about plot structure. We also added this year, Debbie Machiko-Florence will be joining us and talking a little bit about that upper middle grade area and kind of into some of that younger YA, because this teen audience really does span a large range, and how can you tell the difference in what you're writing? So we've added a little bit more to this workshop, and we're very excited about it. There are multiple opportunities for feedback, and it's perfect for people writing those contemporary stories. Our novels in verse workshops are perfect for those who are writing in this limiting yet limitless form. It does provide limitations as far as the structure itself of the novel in verse, but there are ways to still build that storyline. And all of our novel in verse offerings, we have 2 online and we have 1 retreat, will really be focused on how do you use this structure to the best of its abilities? How do you create that storyline to have a very effective and emotionally resonating novel in verse. Brand new also is a retreat this fall called Pushing the Limits, where we'll also talk about novels in verse, but we'll also be talking about graphic novels and stories in vignette and ways to play with form and with structure and chronology, ways to intertwine genres. This workshop is for novels that seem to break all of the rules, and it's just done in the best possible way. So we're excited about this new one, and can see lots of great stories coming from this. We also have a workshop for novels as part of our Essential Conversation series. These include our Symposium for Jewish Literature, novelists on identity and story, as well as our Writing the Rainbow retreat for our LGBTQIA+ novel community, and our Latinx Writers, a working symposium. Both the Jewish Children's Literature Symposium and the Writing the Rainbow retreat are specific for novelists, while our Latinx program will cover picture books, nonfiction, and novels. All 3 of these will feature rich conversations about identity and community and craft. Digging a little deeper into our general workshops for novelists, I'm going to break them up into 4 parts this afternoon. One part will be our just starting out. Another will be well into your draft. One will be for finished drafts. And then I'm going to call the last category beyond. If you are just starting out in writing novels, we have a number of workshops for you. One that's been very popular, and we've offered it year and year again, is called Crafting a Successful Beginning to Your Novel. It offers feedback on the first 50 pages that you've created. Sometimes people don't have 50 pages finished just yet, and that's okay too. But you're coming with that beginning, and you're going to find out what it takes to make that beginning as strong as possible, and then carry that storyline through. This workshop I love because it also talks so much. It spends time talking about the first chapter, the first page, and even the importance of that first line. Another good choice for those just starting out in their novel and needing a little bit more guidance on how to take it to the end would be getting your novel unstuck. What a great word for novelists. Yeah, sometimes they get stuck. And this workshop will give you feedback on the first 10 pages, but then it will also help you structure, how do you push forward? What is your focus to outline that middle and then get yourself to the end? And how do you look for those through lines in all of it? Similarly, because it's plot focused, that one, we also have new this year a workshop called Plot Like a Film. And that's using screenwriting tips to help develop your story from beginning to end. This one's great for anyone just even in the idea phase, and they're really thinking about, like, I've been a pantser all my life, and I'd really like to think about, how do I use a 3-act structure to help set up a story and then write it? This workshop grew out of 2 really wonderful breakout sessions at 2 different workshops that we had in 2019. One was with Tiffany Jackson. She was on faculty at last year's summer camp, and she hosted a breakout session with a similar topic. It might have been plot like a screenwriter, or plot in 3 acts, or something like that. And she talked really about her background in screenwriting and that 3-act structure, and how she uses it so much in her amazing books. And then she went through and she remedied people's plots one after the other in her exercise. Not just the students at summer camp, but also the faculty at summer camp were talking to her through this 3-act structure that she took us through, and she was identifying areas to help smooth out plot. So that was very exciting. And then Sona Charapatra was with us as well, and she was talking specifically about screenwriting technique and what screenwriting technique can do to allow novelists to think about storyline. And so together we had Sona and Tiff come up with this new and fabulous workshop for people who need to understand plot. We do as novelists, and it's called Plot Like a Film, Screenwriting Techniques That Serve Your Story. We're very excited about this one. We also have our Getting to Know Your Novel, and that's a great workshop for people starting out because you learn so much about writing novels. It's an evergreen course, though, because it can be taken every time you start out in a new novel. You learn about character and voice and pacing and setting goals for yourself and self-care and so much more. This workshop takes part online and on campus. It's a 2-part act here. And you have feedback at this one on your first chapter, on your first 25 pages, and then on your first 50 pages. And you meet with an editor at this workshop, you meet with your faculty mentor, and then you meet in roundtable critique. So one of those questions that I had asked earlier, how much critique, how much feedback are you ready to receive? If you're ready to receive a good amount of feedback, this is a great one for you. I just spoke with Sarah yesterday. We were talking a little bit about how we'll be redesigning the online portion, which starts in February of this workshop. And she really has some great new features, some fun ways to springboard your writing while you're working on the novel itself. I would say that Getting to Know Your Novel and our Summer Camp in Fiction are evergreen courses for novelists, meaning you can take them once, or you could take them again and again and again, because every time you're starting out on the journey of writing a novel, these workshops will help you. Our Summer Camp in Fiction is just a favorite. It features celebrated fiction writers and poets. It has daily mentorship. You meet with your mentor for 30 minutes every single day. You have a formal critique that is sent in ahead of time, and then additional daily critiques with your mentor. You might work on one novel. You might work on several novels. It also has inspirational keynotes and craft-focused breakout sessions, similar to the one I mentioned that Tiffany Jackson did last year. And there are s'mores, and there is a field trip, and there are fireside readings one night. It's just a lovely event. And that can really fit if you're coming in with an idea, if you're working on multiple projects right now and want a little bit of feedback on all of them, or you're really trying to focus in on finishing that one draft. If you are drafting a novel, you could certainly take any of the workshops that I've talked about, and they will help you get through that draft. But when you're ready to start that big picture revision, you want to think about attending a retreat that is focused on revision. And we have 2 on campus and then 2 online next year that I'd like to talk about. One of them on campus is called Filling the Writer's Toolbox, and that's with Emma Dryden. And she walks you through each component of your novel. Every day is focused on a different component and revision strategies that go along with it. Day 3 might be a focus on voice, and she'll go through strategies for developing voice, but also strategies for revising voice. And then in the afternoons, you do have some time to work on your revisions. As a novelist at this workshop, you get up to 50 pages revised, but they're 50 pages from the beginning, from the turning point, and from the end. Which is really nice. And you do those critiques in roundtable. And then you'll also have an opportunity to meet and talk about first and last pages with an agent, Linda Camacho, an editor, Tiffany Lau, and another editor, Emma Dryden. And so they facilitate this first and last pages panel, talking about each of the novelists' first and last pages, the promise that is set on the first page, and whether it has been fulfilled by the last page. The nice thing about those first and last pages, Emma allows for you to take the revision time, and if you've revised them during the workshop, you can bring the revised pieces as the pieces that are shared during that panel, which I think is very helpful to get that next level of feedback on revision that you've done. Another great revision workshop that we have is our revision retreat. And for the first time in its very long history of being here at the Highlights Foundation, this workshop will take place online and in person. It's a 2-parter, and the online component is giving you such a rich background in critique and revision strategies, because receiving and giving critique, that's also a strategy that we need to learn as writers. And then the revision itself, the work that you're doing to shape up your novel, is another skill that we need to learn. And so that big piece, those 2 big pieces, I should say, will be done online. You'll have a chance to have a consultation with Eileen Robinson and Harold Underdown about your work. You'll turn in your manuscript pages, and then when you come to the retreat, you'll have time to work, meet with your mentors again, peer-to-peer critiques, setting up your goals and strategies for revising your work. And additionally, you'll have other craft-focused lessons while you're at the retreat itself. It's a really great workshop that comprehensively looks at one specific project that you really want to get a handle on the revision. But then the strategies, both in the revision retreat and Filling the Writer's Toolbox, those are strategies that you'll use again and again and again, because we know we just have to keep revising our novels to get them right. It's not a one-shot deal. We also have some online workshops next year that focus on novel writing, and one of them is developing a style guide and an introduction to line editing, which are also great skills for novelists. And you can look for all of our online offerings to be posted on our website by February 1st, 2020. So we're going to speed through here a little bit, but let's say you've written all the drafts. You've written 20 drafts. You've written and revised, and now you're at 35 and you're saving them all on the cloud and looking at the new dates on them and the new things that you've added, and you've revised and you're so close to this novel. You're just so close that you're not able to get a grasp on what needs to happen to fix it. In that case, you're probably going to want to look at one of our very intense novel workshops, like our whole novel workshops, our novel writing with Patty Gouch, or our From Premise to Pitch workshop. In both the whole novel and in From Premise to Pitch, you have to have a finished novel. It needs to be finished from beginning to end. The novel has probably been with you a while, and now you're kind of thinking about how do I make it better? What do I need to do? Because I'm so close. I'm just turning the dial on it a little bit, and I need a full turn. At the whole novel, you receive that whole novel critique. You have a critique from one of the 5 mentors that we feel is best matched with the story that you're writing. You get to workshop pages with Rob Costello and Nicole Valentine in their Brain Trust. You have writing activities that start your day. You have time to work on revision. You have one-to-one meetings with mentors. You talk about submissions. You talk about goal setting for the next book. It really is a high-level look at your novel as it's ready to go out into the world. And if you've taken any one of the novel workshops that I've talked about already, and you've revised so much on your own, this is the one. This is the one that you're looking for. It is an application-based class. And what you want to do is submit the project that is going to be the one that you're working on. Sometimes we have friends who submit a different project and then say, oh, you know, I'd really like to work on this one. Submit the project that you want your mentors to see and know that this is the one that you're needing the most help with during that whole novel course. We have opportunities for 20 writers to take our general middle grade and YA whole novel course. And we have an opportunity for 16 total students to take our Writing the Unreal whole novel course. And again, that one's broken up into 8 people come in May and 8 people come in October. For that middle grade and YA whole novel, we have all 20 people come in August with all of the mentors. But check out the application for those. The application windows are far in advance of when the workshop actually starts. Another one that I mentioned kind of for that moving toward that submission end would be From Premise to Pitch. And that is a new workshop this year where you'll meet with agents and an editor, and you'll look at your synopsis. You'll look at all the novel components. You'll talk about the pitch, and you're trying to assess whether or not the story really is ready to go out on submission. And you might find during this workshop, yes, you are ready. You're going to design these last few items that will go out with your submission packet. Yes, it's ready. Or you might find, oh, I'm missing some really important craft components and I need to go back. This might be a good opportunity to come to a revision workshop or another workshop that's specifically working on, let's say, plot. If you're meeting with the agents and they're saying, you know, the structure just isn't there, the plot components just aren't there, you might want to take a workshop and find out more about plot itself. Let's finish with what I'm going to call these beyond workshops. And these are like our novel workshops because they have supportive faculty and they have craft lessons and they have a strong community, but they are for professionals who are looking to continue on in their knowledge of the industry. We know that novelists want to create more than one book. They want to write many books. They want to be a part of the industry, the network itself. And the workshops that I have listed here are helpful to you on that journey. This is feeding both your author side and your writer side. You're able to wear both hats in these workshops. One of them is for debut authors specifically. That's our Sail to Shelf. It's an online workshop with Jess Rinker and guests. And you'll talk a little bit about everything about your book launch, your promotion, your finances, swag, and more. And that is an online course that we'll offer several times throughout the year. We also have one similar because it's getting your book out there, like Sail to Shelf is getting your book out there in the world, is our Crafting Successful Author and Illustrator visits. As a novelist, you want to think about your teen readers and your middle grade readers, and what better than to be in a school with them, seeing how they interact with your words and talk. I read a great post Kate Messner just put up about being out in a school with, kids, and one kid raised his hand and said, I just wanted to talk to you. He didn't have an answer to her question. He just wanted to talk to her. I mean, that's the power of getting out and into classrooms with your book. The kids do want to talk with you and they want to engage with your work. And this workshop, Crafting Successful Author Visits, helps you to design your school visit, whether it's going to be auditorium style or a writer's workshop. It helps you with public speaking skills. Many of us in the writers field are introverts and we don't tend to put ourselves out there and speak publicly. This workshop really focuses on that and talks so much about it. You actually go into a school during this workshop and you give your presentation that you've worked with your mentor to design. You give your presentation to students in middle school or high school if you've written a novel, and you then come back and have that presentation critiqued. So it really is for those ready to take a novel out into the world, out to their readers. Another great workshop for those looking to build their professional knowledge of the industry is part of our Essential Conversations workshops, and it's called Disrupting Youth Literature. It's with Lara Jimenez, Edie Campbell, Chris Rhodes. We have a virtual visit from Debbie Reese, guests, Juji Morales and Bemi Rude Perkovic. There will be rich conversations during this workshop. There'll be analysis of youth literature, including a deep analysis of the book, The Poet X'd by Elizabeth Acevedo. It's an opportunity to meet with writers and librarians and teachers and editors and agents and look in depth at our industry and how we can better serve our readers. Again, this is a great one for building that professional knowledge of the industry for novelists. And finally today, for those novelists who are seeking a community retreat with other authors, we have a workshop called Gather. This is a 5-day workshop and it's part inspiration, part retreat. There are 2-hour morning sessions and they're lecture, hands-on. I say hands-on. Last year we were dancing as a component of one of the morning lectures and tying that into our writing. Then in the afternoons, it's dedicated just to your own work. You have an opportunity to work on any stories that you bring with you. Novelists at this year's event include Meg Medina and Jennifer Jacobson, and new to graphic novels, Mike Corrado and poet Carol Boston Weatherford, and then other guests. So that was 25 workshops in 34 minutes. So that's pretty good. I hope you're a little bit closer to maybe picking one that's right for you, or at least you heard a little bit more about one of the workshops that you were interested in. You can always go to our website for very detailed descriptions, testimonials if we've provided the course before. People have given us testimonials to use on the site. There's usually a draft of what the schedule will probably look like. The author bios are on there. And a cool feature that we have on the website now is a filtering tool. So you can actually go to the page that says all workshops. Right underneath it, you could click on novelists and it will provide just a listing of workshops for novelists. Or you could start over, and that first question, where are you on your journey? You might say, you know, I'm revising, and you would click revising, and then just the descriptions of the workshops that feature revision will come up. You'll also see something new on the website, and we've been promoting it a little bit on our social media outlets. We have a team of 4 ambassadors now. Our ambassadors are people who are well-versed in the programs and the experience here at the Highlights Foundation. Kat Galliano, Rona Shearden, Alex Villasante, and our program assistant here at the Highlights Foundation, Joe Lloyd. And you could set up an ambassador phone call, and you fill out a simple survey about your goals and what you're most interested in. You'll be called by one of our ambassadors, and you could talk about the program itself. You might talk about applying for a scholarship or what the experience is here on campus. It's just a way to help you choose when there are so many offerings. And we're so grateful to our team of ambassadors who know us so well and are helping us to spread the word about the Highlights Foundation. If you've listed a question below, we're going to try and respond to as many as possible, but I just want to add 2 quick things before we jump into any of those questions. I think George is going to share them with us. One of them is, don't forget, we have a code until January 31st called Bucket List, and that is for $100 off your retreat of your choice. So if you come out to us and you make a decision by the end of the month, we do have that valid code for you to use. And then 2, I just want to thank you so much for being here this afternoon as we launch this new webinar series to talk a little bit more in depth about our different offerings in 2020. Like I said, there are so many, and we just wanted to find a way to make sure that we're matching you with the workshop that will best serve your goals. And a special thank you to our faculty and staff here at the Highlights Foundation, because they've really helped to pull together just an amazing 2020 program year. So we hope we get to see you here with all of our faculty and staff. So George, are you ready? Do you want to take a couple questions?
I think I'm ready. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Oh, great. Let me even start my video. Somebody just asked about gift certificates, and I sent the link to that. But yes, gift certificates are a great, fun way to help get people to think about what interests you the most in your writing endeavors. Allison, we have a question from Elizabeth. She said she's really interested in summer camp, but she's not quite sure what stage she should be at to go. She's a super beginner and just wants to know if the full week is appropriate.
Sure. So one thing about summer camp is that it gives you a really broad overview of the fiction genre. And you're able to look at writing novels, but you can also learn a little bit about poetry and picture books. We do end up getting a little talk about the illustration process as well. And then you can kind of beeline toward the breakout sessions that would mean the most to you. And the breakout sessions every day have a variety. There's a variety for anywhere you are on your writing journey, as well as looking at the picture book track, the novel track, revision, and sometimes even just generating words. One of the breakout sessions is usually just a hike through the woods with a journal, and you have an opportunity to reflect and write there too. We do get people who are just starting out at that workshop all the way through. We've had published authors taking the class as well. And you can decide how best your mentor can help you, whether it's on one project or whether your daily meetings are more a consultation where you're asking questions about how do you set up a process to write daily? Do I have to write daily? These are mentors that are there to help you, yes, in the craft, in your manuscript, but also in becoming the writer that you want to be for children.
Thanks, Allison. Someone else asked whether you need a whole novel draft to attend the revision retreat. And what's your take on the type of draft necessary for revision retreat?
I think, is Harold on this call? Is he in there? I think if Harold and Eileen were here, they might suggest that it would be helpful to have a whole novel. But I think the nice piece about this workshop, one, is that it's spread out. So when you first engage in this workshop, it's the month of June. And then when you actually come to the retreat center to work, it is August. So you might not have a finished manuscript by the time that you start in June, but you might be working towards that finish in August. You might also use it as a way to revise and know what you're looking for as you build out the rest of your novel. So maybe you've written the first 100 pages of your novel and you really start to engage in understanding what this revision process looks like. And then it starts to help you outline what the second half of your novel will be. I think you could use it certainly in both ways.
Developing the author visit, the school visit program, is it geared for elementary school students? Yes.
No, we have everybody comes to that one. We've had high school visits, we've had middle school visits, elementary school visits, preschool visits. The workshop itself is really tailored to your book and your story as an author. So it's using who you are to be as authentic as possible in front of the students. And so the strategies that are developed about public speaking, then you interpret them and you craft your own responses to it. It's not geared toward elementary level students or speaking to elementary level students, all ages.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I'm on the wait list. Is there any hope of getting in? That's a great question. We were just talking about this last week, and there will be a cancellation kind of at the end, and so sometimes we get people in on the wait list. But also we're going to be working with our ambassadors, hopefully, so we can reach out to you and talk about what your writing goals are and see if there's a possible other fit that might be right for you. Choosing the whole novel or revision retreat, what is the difference?
So, is Sarah Aronson on this call? No, I'm just kidding. What I would say the big difference would be in the revision retreat, you're going to learn a number of strategies going into a revision. So it's okay if this is your very first draft or you're kind of getting through your first draft. You're learning these revision strategies and then you're going to have time to apply them. I think the whole novel retreat, and I used this a little bit before, you've revised that whole novel. You are sending it out maybe, and you've received some notes, great notes back from agents that say, you know, there's something about the voice I'm not connecting with, or I really like your writing, but I'm just not connecting to the story. So you've grown so close to this whole novel and you're getting close on your path to submission, but you need someone else to look at the entire thing and give you feedback on it. And that's going to help you create a strategy to revise. You might use some strategies that you've learned in a revision retreat, or that maybe you met with your mentor at the whole novel workshop and they say, have you ever tried using Scrivener, or something like that. They might give you a strategy or might talk you through a strategy, but really you've already done a lot of that revision on your drafts. And now you need someone to guide you to take it across the finish line.
Great. I think that does it.
All right.
Thanks so much, Alison. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am grateful for your time.
Yes, thank you. We'll see you in 2020.